In this video, I'm going to walk through how to use Census to manage audience membership in Mailchimp. In this case, I'm going to add contacts to the audience Census newsletter. As a first step in Census, you're going to need to make sure that a data warehouse is connected. We have documentation pages and videos with detailed guidance on how to connect each of the warehouses that we support, so I'm not going to go through those steps here. Instead, for this video, we're going to be pulling data from our Redshift instance that we already have connected. As a next step, you're going to create a new service connection to Mailchimp by selecting it from the drop-down menu here. You'll be asked for your Mailchimp username and password, and then asked to click Allow so that Census is authorized with the listed permissions. I can now scroll to the bottom of the Connections page to show the new Mailchimp connection that was just created. Next, you'll create a model, which is how you tell Census what data it should send onwards from your data warehouse to a service like Mailchimp. I've already started working on a model called Mailchimp Audience. In this model, we're selecting from the table user details, pulling the email, first name, and last name columns. And we're also creating a column called status with the value subscribed. When managing audience membership in Mailchimp, Mailchimp requires both an email address and a status value for it to be considered a valid record. A critical note for Mailchimp is that the status value may only be one of 4 values to let Mailchimp know how it should treat this contact's membership to the audience. Those values are subscribed, unsubscribed, cleaned, and pending. If any other value is in this column, the record will be rejected by the Mailchimp API. Before I save, I'll preview the data to make sure it looks exactly as I'd like. It looks good, so I'll save the model. Finally, you'll create a sink, which is where you will configure data identified in models to be sent to your new Mailchimp connection. To create a new sink, I will click to Add Sink. I'll specify the data warehouse and the model we want to pull from. In our case, that's Redshift Census Demo, and Mailchimp Audience is the model. I'll also specify the service connection we want to send data to, Mailchimp, and the object that we are updating within that connection, the Census newsletter audience. As a final step, we'll now need to map fields from the model to the desired fields in Mailchimp. All Mailchimp contacts require an email address, which is how Mailchimp identifies unique contacts, so I'll map that here. Next, we'll map additional fields. You'll notice that the required status field in Mailchimp has been auto-mapped to the field with the same name in the model. Nonetheless, if you need to change this mapping, you can by clicking on the drop-down menu. We also can map the first and last name fields from the model to fields in Mailchimp, so I'll go ahead and do that right now. Now, with all of the fields mapped, I'll review my configurations and save the sync. I haven't scheduled the sync, but I can trigger a manual sync by clicking Sync Now. While the sync is running, I'll walk through the configuration page. This is where we can schedule the sync to run on a regular cadence. You can set the sync to run on a weekly, daily, or hourly basis, as well as with options to sync every 15 minutes or continuously every 1 minute. I'll go ahead and set this to daily. In the Sync History tab, you'll be able to see details about your historical and ongoing syncs. We can see the number of records that Census is trying to send onwards to Mailchimp, and when the sync completes, we'll even have information about the records the Mailchimp API rejected. In a moment, we'll see that the sync is completed. Now that the sync is completed, let's head over to Mailchimp. To see these new contacts, simply refresh the page. And there you go. We now have these 10 contacts synced to the Census newsletter audience in Mailchimp.